As the second half entered injury time, the score between the two teams was still 1-1. The free kick situation belonged to Japan's U16 team. The referee blew the whistle, and the free kick was taken. A beautiful curve was drawn through the air, and a goal appeared right after. The one who scored was Aoyama. His teammates ran toward him to celebrate, but he avoided them all. The reason was simple: Aoyama was afraid of getting dirty. At Fujimi High School, Aoyama started his new day. The first thing he did when entering the classroom was to clean it thoroughly. The classmates were deeply impressed by his cleaning skills. Even if he had just finished wiping, Aoyama would wipe again, afraid that dust might remain. A member of the soccer team entered the class to call Aoyama to practice. He said it was already training time and there was no time left for cleaning. When Aoyama arrived at the training field, the first thing he did was wash his hands. The girls nearby were still completely mesmerized by him as always. Meanwhile, everyone else on the team was practicing hard on the field. Zaizan felt extremely annoyed because Aoyama kept washing his hands. After a while, the training session ended, and everyone took a break to drink water. Coach Miwa knew very well that Aoyama was an extremely clean person. Even so, she still hoped the whole team would become more united and cooperative. Zaizan imagined that if he passed the ball to Aoyama, the guy would definitely dodge it. To test it, Zaizan tossed Aoyama a water bottle. As expected, Aoyama immediately refused to take it. For Aoyama, he would rather die than drink water handed by someone else. When he finally received his own bottle, he immediately wiped and washed it clean. After that, he continued his training as usual. Zaizan was still determined to teach Aoyama a lesson on the field. But Aoyama didn't jump to contest the ball, because he already had two teammates ready to use their strength for him. When Aoyama was about to put on gloves to throw the ball, another teammate quickly stepped in to replace him. Zaizan looked at the scene and could only mutter to himself, "What the hell is that?" The practice continued, and everyone returned to their training. This time, he successfully scored a goal with a header. He immediately bragged to everyone afterward. He shouted that they should stop pampering Aoyama. He added that if Aoyama never touched the ball, how could he possibly score a goal? Suddenly, his teammates realized that Zaizan was actually the one being pampered. The reason was that he owned a pair of expensive soccer shoes. The whole team became furious when they found out Zaizan was the rich kid of a wealthy family. But Zaizan still believed he was amazing and on top of everyone else. He wanted Aoyama to play soccer seriously for once. This time, it was the coach's turn to take action. As a result, Zaizan was quickly knocked down. He remained frustrated all evening. He refused to accept that someone like Aoyama could play soccer that way. Even with talent, that night, Zaizan came across a girl trying to open a lock. She ran away as soon as she realized she had been caught. The coach arrived shortly after. Zaizan was still dissatisfied with Aoyama's strange way of playing. He complained that Aoyama wouldn't even touch the ball without wearing rubber gloves. Meanwhile, Aoyama was carefully wiping each soccer ball to make sure they wouldn't get dirty. Zaizan thought that was completely insane. He even mocked Aoyama for wearing such a ridiculous outfit. The coach, however, understood that Aoyama dressed that way so he could clean the balls properly. She knew that was Aoyama's biggest weakness in life. He couldn't do anything naturally. Whenever he moved or trained, he would sweat and get dirty, which terrified him. That's why, during matches, he couldn't make physical contact with others. Even so, he still participated in daily practice. For Aoyama, wiping the soccer ball had become a ritual. He saw it as his way of expressing gratitude toward the ball. The next day, another soccer team came looking for Aoyama. They were from the famous Oshigami High School. Their ace player, Takechi, was someone who had previously faced Aoyama in Japan's U16 team. The team they faced was known as the top team in Tokyo. Zaizan thought he would be the one to introduce himself first, but to his embarrassment, the visitors were actually looking for Aoyama. Takechi couldn't understand why Aoyama had refused his invitation. Fujimi High School had never achieved high results in the qualifiers. Takechi even described the place as a dump where he couldn't possibly stay. He declared that no one there could ever understand Aoyama's art or true value. Takechi was determined to take Aoyama away and make him shine elsewhere. Zaizan felt quite irritated by that remark. Aoyama calmly explained that he came to this school because it had something truly unique. Soon after, both sides decided to settle things with a match. Oshigami scored the first goal of the game. Takechi wanted to see what kind of uniqueness Aoyama had mentioned. While saying that, he didn't forget to show off his six-pack abs. He claimed that only with real muscles could someone truly dominate this sport. Aoyama, however, didn't care at all about his boasting. Then, unexpectedly, Aoyama received the ball. In an instant, he accelerated at lightning speed, passing right in front of his opponents. Takechi shouted instructions for his teammates to block Aoyama, but as expected, they couldn't stop him. One defender tried to foul him, but Aoyama reacted in time and avoided it. The opposing goalkeeper was ready for a shot, yet surprisingly, Aoyama didn't shoot right away. He lightly touched the ball with his left foot in a graceful, technical move. The ball slowly rolled past the goalkeeper, stealing his 30K worth of pride. It ended with a magnificent goal. Everyone on the field was in complete disbelief. The coach understood that Aoyama had used his burst of speed to avoid physical contact with others. Sometimes he would slow down for a moment, adjusting perfectly to the situation. That adaptability led to an extraordinary shot. And this, precisely, was Aoyama's unique style. Once again, he succeeded in scoring beautifully. With that goal, his team took the lead. The whole team celebrated together for their second goal. But soon after, Aoyama suddenly stopped moving. Whenever he got dirty, he simply refused to do anything else. The first half came to an end. Takechi admitted that Aoyama was truly a treasure of Japanese soccer. However, he also decided that in the second half, he wouldn't let Aoyama do whatever he wanted anymore. The second half began shortly after. This time, 4 defenders surrounded Aoyama tightly. One of his teammates had just lost possession of the ball. Takechi declared that without Aoyama, Fujimi High School was like a tiger without fangs. Zaisen refused to let that happen, but his shot went straight up into the sky. He could only feel deeply embarrassed by his own failure. The others couldn't help but tease him for how ridiculous it looked. Suddenly, heavy rain began to pour down. The coach could tell that things were starting to go wrong. The opposing team managed to score an equalizer. Takechi still wanted to make Aoyama his teammate. The coach looked at Zaisen, asking for his thoughts. She noticed that Aoyama was acting strangely. She wondered if maybe he had gotten injured. Zaisen went to ask Aoyama directly, but Aoyama calmly said that he wasn't hurt at all. Zaisen realized it must have been because Aoyama was trying to avoid the mud. Indeed, that was exactly the reason. Zaisen became furious and shouted that if Aoyama was afraid of dirt, he should just leave the field. He couldn't understand why someone like Aoyama had chosen this school in the first place. In the first half, Aoyama had played with full seriousness, but now, he was standing still under the rain like a statue. Only 5 minutes remained on the clock. Takechi once again stole the ball. Takechi thought victory was already certain for his team. Everyone believed the match was basically over. But suddenly, Zaisen blocked a powerful shot with his face. Immediately after, his team launched a counterattack. Zaisen knew he didn't have any special talent. Yet no matter who the opponent was, he still wanted to win. He was ready to receive the ball with all his strength. He went for a header to finish the play. But once again, the ball flew off in the wrong direction. Out of nowhere, Aoyama appeared and intercepted the ball mid-air. Everyone was stunned by his sudden move. The ball continued its path and went straight into the net. It was a goal. Aoyama's entire body was now covered in dirt. Zaisen was shocked. He thought Aoyama hated getting dirty. Aoyama revealed that since there were only 5 minutes left, he could handle it. He said he simply didn't want to lose the match. In the last few minutes, Aoyama and Zaisen worked together perfectly. Their teamwork resulted in the 4th goal. Fujimi High School defeated Oshigami High School. Zaisen tried to celebrate with Aoyama, but ended up getting ignored again. Aoyama complimented him, saying his header was truly impressive. Zaisen then offered Aoyama the number 10 jersey, saying it suited him better. But Aoyama refused, saying he'd rather die than wear something that dirty. Takechi and his team returned home in defeat. Takechi even thought about transferring schools just to play alongside Aoyama. Yet he still couldn't understand the deeper meaning behind Aoyama's words. The doll-like girl who had known Aoyama since childhood remembered meeting him at school. From that moment, Aoyama had become someone special in many people's eyes. She saw herself as a shy and quiet girl. The two of them rarely spoke to each other. Aoyama always carried a calm, silent, and unyielding attitude. Back when she was in 5th grade, that was the first time the two of them ever talked. Aoyama's fans always came to watch their idol practice. Zaisen, however, was irritated by all the noise and excitement. He knew that after practice, Aoyama would go clean the soccer balls, but he swore that he would never spoil Aoyama like everyone else. Aoyama kicked the ball straight into the storage bag without touching it with his hands. Since the ball was dirty, suddenly, the ball hit Zaisen right in the face. He thought Aoyama had done it on purpose. Then, to make things worse, he got hit by another one right after. Back in the locker room, the other teammates were chatting about various things. But Aoyama didn't care about any of it. He quietly focused on getting changed and preparing for the next match. Even when his teammates were heartbroken over their own problems, Aoyama ignored them completely. For him, cleaning the locker room was far more important. The next training session continued as usual. That day, however, the doll-like girl didn't show up. The locker room of the club still shone spotlessly clean. When practice ended, the players returned together. Each uniform was neatly folded and placed in order. But then Aoyama suddenly said that he hadn't done any of it. He explained that he'd rather die than touch someone else's clothes. Everyone realized that Aoyama had been practicing on the field the entire time. The team captain asked everyone to check if anything valuable was missing. Inside Aoyama's locker, they found a small cat-shaped doll. Aoyama put on his gloves and picked it up carefully. As it turned out, the doll-like girl had been the one behind all of it. The next day, the locker room was once again sparkling clean. Even though the door had been securely locked, everything was spotless. The members began to believe that it must have been the work of a fairy. But the following day, the same mysterious cleaning happened again. Everyone was still very delighted to receive help from the fairy every day. Aoyama once again discovered a cat doll inside his closet. This time, the doll was even bigger than before. After that, everyone continued their usual practice. The doll girl secretly came again to clean the room as always. As expected, she was incredibly professional. She gently opened the door with great care. Aoyama recalled what had happened that time. Back then, Aoyama tried to touch the cat doll but pulled his hand back. He kept reaching out and withdrawing his hand again and again. The cat got annoyed and tried its best to touch him back. The doll girl appeared and realized that the cat wasn't scary at all. She thought that maybe Aoyama really liked cats. The cat spirit refused to stay still. Finally, the doll girl decided to give Aoyama her own cat doll. She believed he could touch this one more easily. Aoyama looked at the cat and found its face strangely odd. He accepted it but said he would only take it after it was cleaned. So the doll girl immediately went to wash it. Since then, she could no longer bring it to him again. Now, even though he was already in high school, Aoyama still hadn't realized anything. She placed another, even bigger, cat doll inside his closet. This time, Aoyama witnessed everything that happened. He said, "Hey, do you need my help? Whoever you are?" The doll girl was extremely flustered when she saw him there. She thought everything would fall apart, including her secret daily cleaning. And also all the dolls she had left for him. She believed that Aoyama must have completely forgotten about her long ago. Aoyama stepped forward and handed her a bottle of disinfectant. He said, "If you're going to do it, you should use this to make it properly clean." Moreover, the strange face of the cat doll still hadn't changed at all. Finally, Aoyama softly said, "It's been a long time. Goto Mocha." She was deeply moved because Aoyama still hadn't forgotten her. Zaizan got angry because Aoyama skipped practice just to talk with a girl. He shouted that Aoyama even made the girl cry. For crying out loud. Soon after, everyone discovered that Goto was actually the fairy who had been helping them all along. She apologized for acting without permission. She sincerely said she only wanted to help everyone. She said she just wanted to see everyone happy. In truth, she only wanted her own Aoyama to be happy like that. In return, everyone else completely misunderstood her feelings. The team captain invited Goto to officially join the club. He offered her the position of the team manager. He said this would be great for both the team and for Aoyama. Goto promised she would do her very best. Then everyone threw confetti to celebrate together. They were all thrilled that the club finally had a girl member. "Oh no, oh no, oh no 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 no," someone exclaimed jokingly. Aoyama later found another, even bigger, cat doll in his closet. The next day's practice session began as usual. During the 5-minute break, Goto brought drinks for the team members. Aoyama continued to be the center of attention all the time. His fan base kept growing larger day by day. The other members even discovered that he always showered before practice. Another day passed peacefully. The group suddenly realized Aoyama had gone to shower but forgot to bring his towel. One member curiously took a sniff of that towel. He confidently told everyone that it really smelled incredibly good. The whole team went wild because of that towel. The next day's practice began once again. When break time came, everyone's attention was focused on Aoyama's towels. Suddenly, one member slipped and asked Goto for first aid. She didn't dare to look because she was afraid of blood. That guy casually grabbed Aoyama's towel and wiped his face with it. After that, one by one, each person secretly took the towel. They used it to wipe this and that, up and down, all over the place. By the end of practice, they all agreed with the bespectacled guy that it really smelled amazing. Zaizan looked at them in disbelief, thinking they were all perverts. He shouted that they must have gone insane for sniffing the same towel together. Goto had already found out everything that happened. She decided that she must protect Aoyama. Or rather, she must protect Aoyama's towel. The next day, she prepared her tools in advance. "What are you planning to do?" Tsukamoto? Someone asked. Do you want to test the towel? Or do you want to test the stick instead? Zaizan noticed that Goto's defense was truly perfect. And that was how Goto protected Aoyama's towel. From that day on, the whole towel incident came to an end. However, rumors about Aoyama's fragrant towel began spreading throughout the school. The story even inspired the creation of a Pure Aoyama fan club. The number of fans grew even larger because of this rumor. Most people joined simply out of curiosity. Even the cat showed up to take part. Goto didn't know how she could fight against the entire world alone. When break time came, everyone eagerly waited for Aoyama to wipe his sweat with the towel. Then they all rushed in together to snatch it away. Aoyama remained completely calm amidst the chaos around him. The team was shocked that he could still dribble the ball during all that madness. Goto firmly decided she had to protect her dear Aoyama-kun. Zaizan grew furious, not understanding what everyone was even doing there. He shouted, asking what had driven them to step onto the soccer field in the first place. He reminded them that this was a place for those who respected soccer. Whether male or female, young or old, he said he would deal with anyone who disrespected the sport. Everyone slowly left the field one by one. The real reason they left was fear of Zaizan's family, not of Zaizan himself. That night, Zaizan still couldn't believe everyone had gone crazy over a single towel. He assured himself that he definitely wasn't one of those perverts. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew through. He reached out desperately to catch the towel as it fell. Then he recalled all the things people had said about it. Another breeze passed by. Zaizan sniffed the towel and felt a strange sense of nostalgia. A vision of his childhood family appeared in his mind. It really was the scent of his mother. That very moment, Aoyama appeared and caught him in the act. "You really are a pervert," Aoyama said in disbelief. "I can't believe this." Honestly, Aoyama told him to throw the towel away and warned that he wouldn't forget what happened. Back home, the butler suggested washing the towel, but Zaizan insisted on keeping it just the way it was. The next day, Goto became so obsessed that she even wore a shirt with the words, "Live for Aoyama," written on it. The other members were shocked when they saw her like that. Because of Aoyama's fear of physical contact, everyone believed he would never take the train. They also thought he would have trouble preparing for tomorrow's match against Takata Academy. But unexpectedly, they found out he was riding a bicycle outside. A girl noticed this and decided she wouldn't let him appear before the match. The group decided to have dinner together before the big game. Suddenly, Aoyama said he wanted to go home. He rushed back immediately and went straight to take a shower. However, fate didn't seem to want to let him return early that night. So in the end, everyone just stayed and continued their meal together. Aoyama started by wiping the table. After that, he continued by cleaning the drinking glasses. Kana, the girl with the mole, was still secretly watching him. Suddenly, Takechi appeared at the same place. The two of them immediately ran into each other and began teasing one another. While talking to Aoyama, Takechi didn't forget to show off his six-pack abs. Neither of them was willing to back down. They kept exchanging sharp words, arguing non-stop. Takechi confidently declared that his team would defeat Takata Academy if Aoyama joined them. He even boasted that they might score 10 goals or more. The other members looked on, thinking that was pure delusion. The heated argument between the two sides continued. After a while, the food finally arrived. Everyone immediately started eating. Aoyama, however, still hadn't touched his food. Takechi pointed out that Aoyama would never eat outside food. He only ate meals prepared by himself. He wasn't like those guys who stuffed anything they saw into their mouths. So Takechi decided he would eat Aoyama's portion for him. But the chubby guy stopped him, saying that finishing leftovers was his job. He and Takechi were perfectly matched, one's strength against the other's appetite. In just 30 seconds, all the food was gone. The chubby guy wasn't satisfied with the result. He ordered another steak to challenge Takechi again. The two continued their fierce eating battle. Neither side was willing to lose in this contest of who could eat more. Outside, the rain kept pouring down. The menu was nearly completely ordered because of their competition. Takechi swore he would never lose a second time to the Fujimi members. After a while, both of them reached the final dish. Takechi had reached his physical limit, but he still wanted to prove himself in front of Aoyama. The two of them had studied together back in middle school. Takechi still clearly remembered Aoyama's perfect pass. He admitted that he could never forget that moment. That was why Takechi truly wanted to receive Aoyama's pass once again. He was determined to convince Aoyama to join him so they could conquer the world together. Just when he thought the eating battle was over, the dessert arrived. A gigantic strawberry parfait was waiting as the final challenge. The chubby guy finished it effortlessly. Meanwhile, Takechi passed out from overeating. The rain finally stopped after that. Aoyama immediately wanted to go home. The next day, The preliminary round began. The team members were waiting for Aoyama to arrive. Zaizan grew increasingly frustrated by his delay. At that moment, Aoyama had just finished washing his hands. Kana, the girl with the mole, noticed that the water there was dirty. Aoyama used her bottled water instead, saying the tap water was too filthy. Kana then took the chance to ask Aoyama for a favor. She led him to the room of Takata Academy. Her boyfriend happened to be the captain of the Takata team. Taking advantage of the situation, she locked the door. She was determined not to let Aoyama leave until the match was over. Meanwhile, a large crowd had gathered to watch Aoyama play. However, the reporters still hadn't seen him appear on the field. The Fujimi team was forced to start the match without Aoyama in their lineup. Goto was desperately searching for him everywhere. The match began in full swing. Takata Academy's team wasn't particularly skilled, but they played rough and fast, and were notorious for their violent and dirty tactics. Aoyama, meanwhile, was still locked inside the room. Kana deliberately took off her shirt to intimidate Aoyama. Aoyama now realized that her action was truly unfair. He immediately fainted on the spot. Aoyama just hoped that Kana wouldn't touch him. Kana also guessed that Aoyama was suffering from a cleanliness disorder. She couldn't believe he could still play soccer despite that condition. Takata's team scored another goal. The members of Fujimi felt that their opponent was truly a tough one. The match had only 30 minutes left. Aoyama couldn't believe his girlfriend was so capable and reliable. Then, Aoyama's savior finally arrived. Goto discovered the place where Aoyama was trapped. Kana was determined to take down anyone who dared to hurt Aoyama. For Goto, a cheap lock like this only took 10 seconds to open. She opened every door one by one to check each room. Aoyama was finally rescued safely. At that time, the match had only 15 minutes remaining. Finally, Aoyama returned to the field. He announced that he would pass the ball to Zaizan in the next attack. His team was currently 2 goals behind. The match continued to grow intense. Aoyama received a pass from his teammate. Unexpectedly, it was a long ball toward the front. But no, it was actually a bold shot. Unfortunately, the ball hit the crossbar and bounced out. The fans thought that shot looked absolutely cool. The players on the field felt extremely confident with Aoyama playing alongside them. Then Aoyama dribbled past his opponents like Messi in real life. He successfully scored a beautiful goal. The opponents began to play dirty again to stop him. However, they couldn't even touch Aoyama. Finally, Aoyama delivered a perfect pass to Zaizan. However, Aoyama got hit during the play. Zaizan successfully scored a header, equalizing the match at 2-2. At that moment, Aoyama's entire body was covered in dirt. The opponent received a yellow card for that foul. Zaizan felt very frustrated about the situation. He also showed great concern for his friend. Aoyama said he was fine, but no one could tell how fine he really was. His movements immediately became slower. Once Aoyama realized he was dirty, he could no longer play as usual. The opponent tried to take advantage of this moment. Both teams were determined to fight with all their strength to win. Fujimi's team successfully defended against the next attack. Aoyama seemed completely exhausted, both physically and mentally. The coach announced that there were less than 5 minutes remaining. Then, it was time for Aoyama to shine again. He appeared and blocked a shot with his chest. The opponent couldn't understand how that was even possible. Aoyama then unleashed his incredible speed. This time, he went one-on-one against the opposing player. Everyone knew he was truly back, because he never wanted to lose. He dodged a sliding tackle gracefully. Then he fired a skillful and powerful shot. He scored an absolutely stunning goal. Fujimi High officially took the lead in the match. Aoyama declared that although he hated dirt, what truly disgusted him was playing dirty. Therefore, he would crush that ugliness with all his strength. Takechi arrived at the stadium and proudly admitted, "My boy is still number 1. The team scored another goal right after that. The final score became 5-2 for the match. The entire team wanted to celebrate with Aoyama. However, he easily dodged everyone's attempts to touch him. When Takata's team returned to the locker room, everything was sparkling clean. They finally realized that Aoyama had been locked inside, which explained why the room was spotless. Kana admitted that showing off her body actually turned out to be quite useful. She even became a fan of Aoyama after that. In the classroom, Narita was also a clean freak just like Aoyama. Therefore, he knew that people who liked cleanliness always observed things more carefully than normal people. He was playing games with his friends. He thought letting people in the real world know he was a clean freak would be incredibly stupid. That was why he always kept the secret. Early in the morning, he arrived at school before everyone else. The first thing he did was wipe his desk and chair until they were spotless. Then it was Aoyama's turn to arrive. Aoyama immediately joined in and started cleaning as well. Narita considered this the most relaxing time of his day, because an hour later, the classroom would look like a battlefield. He found everyone around him rude and lacking manners. Suddenly, two classmates were playing around and accidentally spilled milk on Narita's desk. The student apologized and used his own shirt to wipe up the milk. Narita was extremely uncomfortable but pretended that nothing had happened. He still didn't understand why Aoyama feared dirt even in public places. Then another classmate sneezed loudly nearby. Aoyama quickly pulled his desk aside to avoid the flying droplets. Meanwhile, Narita struggled to stay calm while keeping his own secret. He believed that staying silent was the smartest choice for a clean freak. The cooking class then began. The girls in class turned out to be quite hopeless at cooking. In contrast, Narita showed excellent cooking skills. Aoyama, on the other hand, was not inferior at all. The teacher couldn't help but praise them both endlessly. Narita was determined not to lose to Aoyama. His first dish was finally completed. He also refused to eat food made by anyone else. One of the girls tasted the soup and then put the spoon back in. As a result, they had to throw away the soup since it couldn't be eaten anymore. Aoyama also finished preparing his own dish. Narita smelled the aroma and admitted that it was unbelievably tempting. Two classmates from the same group tasted it and felt like they were experiencing the finest flavor on earth. Soon, everyone else joined in and started eating happily. Only Narita remained uninterested. The fragrance of Aoyama's soup spread to other classrooms. Then, one after another, more and more people came to see what was happening. The teacher couldn't believe that Aoyama's soup could be that amazing. In no time, the entire pot was completely empty. Narita had just finished cooking a small batch of fried rice. Immediately, the crowd moved over to eat the fried rice. Then Aoyama started making chicken rice next. A chubby student swore he would eat as much as he could. But it turned out that it wasn't chicken rice at all. It was actually omurice. Rice wrapped in an omelet, so everyone rushed over again to eat the omurice. The teacher was completely speechless about the situation. Just when she thought help had arrived, two more hungry mouths showed up unexpectedly. Goto led the way and brought a ton of fresh ingredients from the cafeteria. She came to assist the two master chefs of the class. Narita finished his tomato cheese spaghetti first. Then, one after another, both sides kept responding with more and more creative dishes. Each of them was determined not to lose to the other. As a clean freak, Narita believed he could never eat food made by someone else. Therefore, he was sure Aoyama felt exactly the same way. Everyone ended up completely full from eating all the dishes they had made. Aoyama had just finished preparing a cup of coffee. On top of the foam, there was a drawing that Narita thought was a bear, but it turned out to be a cat. Later that night, while playing games at home, Narita encountered a player whose character looked exactly like Aoyama. But judging by his attitude, Narita began to think he might have been wrong about Aoyama. Then, suddenly, a monster appeared out of nowhere. It was quickly defeated in an instant. San was the one who took it down with a powerful soccer kick. Narita was certain that Aoyama would never act like that. In the afternoon, Narita discovered Aoyama cleaning the public water faucet. A girl showed up and asked if she could join him. Aoyama coldly refused her request. After that, he quietly left the place. Narita then noticed a badge from their online game guild attached to Aoyama's backpack. On the back of that badge, each member's in-game name was engraved. Since San joined the guild, they hadn't lost a single match. Narita was determined to find out what name was written on the back of Aoyama's badge. One of the girls from class came to borrow Narita's homework to copy. He tried to act calm, but deep inside, he felt like crying. The girl decided to take a picture of his notes, but her phone suddenly ran out of battery. Narita didn't know what to do because he hated it when others touched his belongings. So, following the saying, when all else fails, just run, he decided to retreat. Instead, he copied the entire assignment onto another sheet of paper for her. The next class was physical education. Narita thought it would be his chance to get a closer look at Aoyama's badge. Suddenly, when everyone was changing, Yuko shouted that her uniform had been stolen. The class representative suspected that one of the boys might have taken it, except for Aoyama, of course. Yuko clearly remembered leaving her uniform there since yesterday. The class representative continued analyzing the situation. Everyone started suspecting Narita since he was always the first one to arrive at class. Narita had no idea why he was being accused like that. Then, the whole class demanded to check his bag. Aoyama quietly walked away as if nothing had happened. Narita immediately flinched the moment someone touched him. Then Narita ran away in panic. Everyone was convinced that he was the culprit. He kept getting caught and touched by others as they tried to stop him. Narita felt furious because no one believed in him. His body had already come into contact with so many things. Aoyama arrived. carrying Yuko's missing belongings. It turned out that Yuko had accidentally left her bag in another classroom. Aoyama handed a tissue to Narita. He calmly said that sometimes it's better to speak up, my friend, but Narita stubbornly chose to keep his secret. The class representative and Yuko both apologized to him. The male classmates also came forward to say sorry. Narita didn't hold any grudge against anyone. Because, for a clean freak, this was the smartest way to handle things. Yuko suddenly hugged him tightly. And just then, Narita finally saw that the name engraved behind Aoyama's badge was San. Narita couldn't believe that Aoyama was completely different in real life and in the game. His room, surprisingly, was extremely messy. Early the next morning, the two clean freaks came to school early to do their thing together. How fun the soccer practice session continued afterward. Just like in the previous episodes, Aoyama still had a massive cheering crowd. Even the team captain joined the fan group to cheer for him. The guy with glasses continued showing off his special skill, juggling the ball with his butt. Everyone watched in disbelief, their jaws dropping. He proudly declared that he would use that ultimate move in tomorrow's match. The practice went on energetically. The glasses guy kept giving it his all. The coach thought that this trio actually worked pretty well together. However, since they were overdoing it, the coach punished them with a quick takedown. Still, she thought such playful energy would make tomorrow's match more exciting. And then, it was still his supreme skill, juggling the ball with his butt. The guy even farted a little while doing it. Then, he tried again, but the ball flew straight toward Aoyama. Of course, Aoyama dodged it effortlessly. The fans once again burst into excitement at his reaction. The reason the captain joined Aoyama's fan club was because his girlfriend was also a fan. No one expected him to do something like that just for love. Truly clever, two birds with one stone. The next day, the whole team headed to the opponent's field to prepare for their upcoming match. When they arrived, Aoyama had mysteriously disappeared again. Luckily, nothing troublesome happened like before. The captain was fully prepared this time. The bespectacled player was assigned the important role of using his special technique. Suddenly, he was hit in the face by a ball. The one who kicked it was the captain of Minamita High School. His name was Katamatsu. It seemed that the two of them had known each other before. The bespectacled player hid something and said he was fine. Soon after, the match officially began. Aoyama started the first attack, dribbling the ball forward. He was still on a completely different level from his opponents. He scored a goal immediately. Then came his usual celebration, gracefully dodging everyone's attempt to hug him. Veteran reporters covering high school soccer confirmed it. Compared to all others, Aoyama was on another level entirely. Some even suspected that the Fujimi team wasn't the right place for him. Indeed, Aoyama's talent deserved to be nurtured to reach the world stage. The opponents then began to coordinate their attacks. Katamatsu knew Fujimi had a weak point and planned to exploit it. That weak point was none other than the bespectacled player. As expected, the bespectacled player couldn't keep up with their speed. The opponents executed their 1-2 combination perfectly. And so, the first goal went to Minamita High School. His teammates couldn't understand what the bespectacled player was doing. But since the match had just begun, they decided to keep going. The bespectacled player made another mistake soon after. His teammates still couldn't figure out what he was thinking. Katamatsu watched and realized that his old friend hadn't changed at all since back then. He was still nothing more than a statue on the field. The first half eventually came to an end. During the break, no one could find where the bespectacled player had gone. He was sitting in the restroom, deeply disappointed in himself. Out of frustration, he vented his anger on a roll of toilet paper. Some players from the opposing team entered the restroom and began talking about the match. It turned out that the bespectacled player used to be on the same middle school team as Katamatsu. Because of his timid and eccentric nature, he had been bullied until graduation. While they continued gossiping, two of the bespectacled player's current teammates overheard everything. Meanwhile, Aoyama was also cleaning in the restroom as usual. Naturally, he heard every single word they said. The bespectacled player decided he wouldn't play in the second half. However, Aoyama had something he wanted to tell him. The second half soon began. The bespectacled player remained on the field. The coach chose not to substitute him out despite his earlier mistakes. His two close friends had pleaded sincerely with her to let him stay. Surprisingly, even though they were usually playful, they begged with genuine seriousness. The coach believed that, this time, he would fight for himself and for his friends. Reporters were also puzzled about why the coach hadn't replaced him. Katamatsu gained control of the ball once again. As expected, the bespectacled player was still haunted by his past. The fear he once felt remained unchanged. Once again, he couldn't stop Katamatsu's attack. But his teammates quickly came to support him. This time, no one blamed him anymore. He silently wished his friend would focus and get his head back into the game. The match continued. The ball rolled toward Aoyama. Reporters watching closely sensed that Aoyama seemed to be waiting for something. There were only 10 minutes left in the second half. The ball returned to Katamatsu. The bespectacled player was once again overtaken. This time, the chubby teammate came in to assist. Some people began criticizing the bespectacled player. However, his teammates still trusted him completely. Indeed, ever since he met his two close friends who shared the same passion. His life had changed. He had rediscovered the joy of playing soccer once again. The opponent then used a feint move. Unexpectedly, the bespectacled player appeared right in front of Katamatsu and intercepted the ball. The ball was then passed to Aoyama. Zaizan also moved forward to support the play. 4 defenders surrounded Aoyama tightly. Suddenly, the bespectacled player ran up and asked Aoyama for the ball. It was known that Aoyama had promised to pass him the ball in the second half. Then, Aoyama performed a stylish Rabona cross. The bespectacled player hesitated, unsure how to receive it. Aoyama signaled for him to do it in his usual comedic way. So the guy decided to use his butt to shoot the ball. Amazingly, the ball went straight into the goal. Everyone was overjoyed and couldn't believe what they had just seen. The whole team rushed in to celebrate with him. Of course, unlike Aoyama, he couldn't dodge their hugs. And with that, the match came to an end. Fujimi High School continued advancing to the next round. The final score was 4-2. The bespectacled player kept up his comedic charm. Meanwhile, Aoyama quietly returned to his cleaning duties as always. The bespectacled player was reading an incredibly interesting manga. Ozaki came over to ask what he thought about it. The bespectacled player said it was absolutely top tier, beyond amazing. He claimed it was #1 among all anime stories. But he added that it was still not as good as Ona's reviews. Then Ozaki quietly walked away. After all, he was actually the author of that very manga. The bespectacled player thought it was the first time Ozaki had ever spoken to him. Ozaki's strange reaction afterward made the girls wonder what was going on. Suddenly, the math teacher caught the bespectacled player reading manga during class. She angrily tore the manga apart on the spot. Rules were rules, she said. She scolded him for wasting time on such trash instead of studying. The bespectacled player was furious because he hadn't even finished reading it. The arrogant teacher left the classroom, only to find out that her boyfriend had just dumped her for someone else. What a terribly unlucky day for her. When she got outside, she saw her car covered in cat paw prints. She was even more enraged because she had just washed it the day before. Coincidentally, Goto was feeding a group of stray cats nearby. The teacher immediately assumed Goto was the culprit and ordered her to stand by the flagpole as punishment. No matter how much Goto tried to explain, the teacher wouldn't listen. Goto had no idea what would happen to the cats now. Ozaki happened to be passing by. Goto was about to snap and fight back against the teacher. Suddenly, Ozaki grabbed the teacher's phone and threw it away. He then took responsibility, claiming the cats were his. The teacher demanded that he pay for her phone. Ozaki reminded her about how she had destroyed someone's beloved manga. He told her not to steal what others truly cherish. In truth, he hadn't actually thrown her phone away, he only pretended to. After that, he simply walked off. The next day carried on as usual. Ozaki continued observing how readers reacted to his manga about saving the world. However, the person he really wanted to see wasn't there. He noticed that Goto seemed to be living her life entirely because of Aoyama. When he went up to the rooftop, he saw the team captain and his girlfriend eating together while talking about Aoyama. Meanwhile, Aoyama was energetically training on the field. As soon as he finished one drill, someone immediately tossed him a towel. Ozaki learned even more about Aoyama that day. He was surprised to find out that Aoyama was also the leader who guided the upperclassmen. When Ozaki returned home, his mind was in turmoil. Using Aoyama as inspiration, he began writing the next chapter of his manga about saving the world. The next day at school, he watched everyone's reactions again. The bespectacled player still thought the story was incredibly cool. However, others interpreted Ozaki's ideas in a completely different way. What they understood wasn't what he had intended at all. Since people already liked the villain, Ozaki decided to make the villain even darker. The following day, the character's popularity exploded even more. Ozaki became increasingly frustrated with the situation. On his way home, he happened to see Aoyama again. Aoyama was desperately dodging a dog that was trying to touch him. That scene gave Ozaki new inspiration. But once again, the result backfired. The villain character's fame skyrocketed even further. Ozaki kept observing Aoyama for more creative ideas. The soccer team members began to notice that Ozaki came to watch every single day. His face always looked tense and annoyed. Yet, the manga series continued on. Everyone remained completely fascinated by it. Seeing that, Ozaki decided to go all in, if it was going to be dramatic. Then so be it. He planned to make the story end with the destruction of the entire planet. However, his editor stopped him, forcing him to change the setting once again. The following week, Ozaki's manga dropped in rankings. The reason was that female fans saw the main character as a perverted creep. When Ozaki heard that, he was actually overjoyed. However, the publishing company didn't want this kind of situation to happen again. They reminded him that working for the company meant living for the company. Then, by coincidence, Ozaki noticed that Aoyama was also following his manga. But it turned out he had misunderstood. Aoyama wasn't really reading it at all. That was embarrassing for Ozaki. He was now under heavy pressure from the company. Still, he continued working on his manga. He added another new character to the story. The two main characters in the manga ended up joining forces. The next day, Ozaki checked the readers' reactions again. This time, it was completely criticized by everyone. Even so, he tried to write the final notes as carefully as possible. Then he looked at how the girls reacted again. They criticized it even more. Some of them didn't even want to read it anymore. Ozaki kept trying to save his manga. But the more he wrote, the worse it became. The word, bad, kept getting longer and longer in online comments. Readers even started to wonder if the author had gone stupid. Ozaki thought about asking his inspiration, Aoyama, for advice. But then he discovered that Aoyama wasn't reading his manga at all. Later, he learned the reason. The story had been edited so much that it lost its original charm. Ozaki thought he needed Aoyama's help to keep writing. But lightning struck his heart when Aoyama simply said he didn't read it because he wasn't interested. So, Ozaki decided to completely change the direction of his story once again. Surprisingly, readers began to think the manga had finally come back to life. But to Ozaki, they all seemed like crazy people. The next day, a first-year student named Umeya asked permission to join the soccer club. Umeya had never played soccer before. He politely greeted everyone on the team. However, he was stopped because he had just quit the judo club. The judo coach couldn't understand his decision. "You're giving up everything just to switch to soccer?" the coach asked. The coach tried his best to persuade Umeya to return to the judo club. But Umeya firmly refused. The arrogant coach decided to teach him a lesson out of spite. Unexpectedly, Umeya threw him to the ground in one swift move. He quickly apologized, saying it was just his reflexes. It turned out he had fallen for Goto. The comedic trio immediately realized what was going on with him. Unfortunately for Umeya, Goto only had eyes for Aoyama. No one could believe someone would abandon his passion just to chase a girl obsessed with another guy. Zaizan advised him to return to his true self and take things seriously again. But Umeya insisted that his seriousness was right here, in this moment. After learning that his romantic rival was Aoyama, Umeya decided to challenge him to a match. Soon after, the two faced off in a one-on-one duel. Everyone already knew what the outcome would be. The judo coach was still present. Watching everything, he knew that no matter how strong Aoyama was, Umeya would never give up. Shockingly, Umeya managed to catch up with Aoyama's speed. Both the judo and soccer coaches began arguing over who would claim this superstar. On the field, the two continued their fierce struggle. The judo coach kept urging Umeya to return to his old club. But Umeya's eyes remained fixed on Goto, the girl who lived for Aoyama. Aoyama's fans continued to cheer passionately from the sidelines. Later, Umeya approached Goto. She was terrified and instinctively grabbed her weapon in defense. But Umeya's true intention was simply to help the girl he had a crush on. The comedy trio saw everything that happened. All three of them discussed the situation. Suddenly, Goto had just finished cleaning the restroom. Even though it was the men's restroom, she insisted that she only cleaned it for Aoyama. The comedy trio strongly protested against it. Aoyama arrived soon after. Goto immediately ran away in panic. Umeya went after her and offered his help. He was determined to win her heart no matter what. Goto became so flustered that she started watering the plants. After that, Umeya came again to help her. Seeing that, Goto felt sorry for him and handed him a towel. She was extremely embarrassed, but she was also happy that Umeya was helping her. The comedy trio kept watching from a distance. They admitted that he really wouldn't give up easily. However, everything Goto cleaned was still for Aoyama. Even so, the comedy trio decided to support Umeya. Just as they finished cleaning, Aoyama suddenly appeared. Goto quickly hid herself. Although the sink was already spotless, Aoyama still cleaned it again. Umeya asked Goto why she liked Aoyama. She didn't know how to answer, but she realized she had already fallen in love without noticing. Umeya admitted that he felt the same way. Then, he decided to meet Aoyama directly. The comedy trio treated it like a live showdown. Umeya told Aoyama that Goto had already cleaned the sink. Aoyama thanked him politely. However, he said he still preferred doing it himself. The comedy trio immediately stepped in. Umeya still believed that Goto's feelings would eventually come true. Umeya informed Aoyama that there would be a cat festival this weekend. He invited Aoyama to join him and Goto at the event. The comedy trio had no idea what his real intention was. The guy with glasses thought Umeya was being ridiculous. Umeya planned to comfort Goto if she got rejected and make her his own. Then, the three guys decided to turn against him and stop helping him. Umeya's coach continued to observe him closely. Finally, the day of the festival at the park arrived. Goto was nervous because she was about to go on a date with Aoyama. The surveillance continued from a distance. Eventually, Aoyama showed up. The cat festival hadn't started yet. Goto remained shy and quiet. Her gaze stayed perfectly parallel with the other three. Even when they looked at different animals, it was still the same. The three of them stood in a perfectly straight line. The comedy trio had no idea what on earth they were doing. Suddenly, a monkey threw a banana peel. Aoyama dodged it effortlessly. Umeya stepped in and shielded Goto. He couldn't understand why Goto stayed silent in front of Aoyama. She was too nervous to say anything. Umeya encouraged her to just be herself and follow her heart. Then, the cat festival officially began. Without saying much, Aoyama immediately joined in the fun. He played through every booth and activity by himself. Some acquaintances of his were also there. One of them turned out to be Odagiri, who called Aoyama master. Goto felt like she had been completely left out. After a while, she quietly joined the group. The three people standing in a straight line had now become four. The comedy trio panicked, thinking everything had gone completely chaotic. Goto felt that she could never compare herself to Odagiri. Odagiri even got to touch Aoyama, which made Goto almost cry. Suddenly, two aggressive guys appeared and started picking a fight with them. The comedy trio couldn't understand why Umeya, who was skilled in judo, didn't do anything. Goto was determined to protect the one she loved. However, Odagiri stepped in and did it before she could. "Alright, let's just go, everyone," someone said to calm things down. After a while, Goto admitted that Odagiri was 1,000 times more compatible with Aoyama. She even thought Odagiri's chest was much bigger than hers. Umeya suggested they go rowing together before heading home. His coach continued to keep an eye on him from afar. Goto ended up sharing the same boat with Aoyama. Umeya didn't want anyone to disturb the two of them. Goto's two friends asked Umeya if he liked her and why he was acting that way. Goto herself didn't understand why she couldn't say anything, even when she was right next to her crush. Umeya called out to her softly. The comedy trio still couldn't get a clear view of what was happening. Umeya asked Goto how her day had been. He encouraged her to do her best and tell Aoyama what she truly felt. Goto decided to give it a try. She admitted that she had been really happy today. The comedy trio finally realized that Umeya was trying to create a chance for the two of them. He truly just wanted to protect her feelings, as long as he could see the person he loved being happy. That was enough for him. He vowed to patiently wait for the right moment to come. His coach proudly acknowledged, "That's my student indeed." Coach Mocha was at home watching a film about training camps. The next day, she announced that there would be an upcoming training camp. The whole team thought joining the training camp wouldn't be of any use. The coach believed it would improve their technique, physical ability, and mental strength. Zaizan suggested holding the camp at his family's villa. He said if the team became stronger, it wouldn't be a problem. Hearing that, everyone wanted to bring along their friends or family. That made the hot-headed guy even more irritated. Aoyama immediately declined the invitation. The comedy trio had already started imagining all sorts of fun things, eating together, sleeping together, even bathing together. It all sounded absolutely amazing to them. When Zaizan got home, his father had just returned from work. His father already knew about his plan to host a training camp. He believed his son had no real talent for soccer, so organizing a camp would be pointless. But then he suddenly changed the subject, jokingly saying he was ready to watch Lat Mat 8, Bong Tae Nong, by Lee Hai this April 30th. He promised to make his son's dream even bigger. He said he would change the rules of soccer so his son could score more goals. However, Zaizan's sister Karen thought that would only spoil him. She knew her brother was actually talking about the national tournament. Their father was overjoyed, proud that his daughter cared so much for her brother. But Karen complained that even though she was already in 9th grade, her dad still treated her like a little kid. The coach arrived shortly after, coming to ask Zaizan for a favor. The next day, the training camp officially began. Karen went all out and invited many people, even students from other schools. Aoyama still hadn't shown up. The comedy trio wondered if he was riding his bike there, or maybe he wasn't coming at all. But to everyone's surprise, the star finally arrived. He had taken the bus, and even that bus was sparkling clean. Unexpectedly, Zaizen's father delivered supplies for him, using a fighter jet. No less, it was still a brand new pair of shoes. Truly, only the son of a rich family could show up like that. Then everyone set off together. The team members couldn't believe that Aoyama had actually agreed to come along. Zaizen thought the reason must be that Aoyama cared about their soccer team. Goto, on the other hand, was daydreaming about sleeping next to Aoyama. The coach felt this trip was exactly like the movie she had watched. When the whole team arrived, they were completely astonished. Karen had prepared a private room just for Aoyama, fully equipped with everything he needed. That was exactly why he had decided to come after all. In contrast, the other members' rooms were completely different, like heaven and earth. Karen explained that her brother told her the team liked sleeping together, so she arranged it that way on purpose. The first activity was for everyone to gather at the beach. Goto still carried the title of living for Aoyama. The coach wanted the team to train right there. Female students from other schools also joined in. The team now realized this really was a great beach. They decided to split into groups and compete with each other. Meanwhile, Aoyama was preparing to go swimming. The practice match had already started. His teammates trained seriously, but Aoyama just stood still, not moving at all. The reason was simple: he was afraid of getting sand on himself. Karen reassured him that the sand here was pure and had antibacterial coating. Suddenly, the captain fell and twisted his ankle. His girlfriend didn't even care and walked away. The coach told Goto to take the captain's place. She knew Goto always practiced after work. Goto's main goal was to play soccer alongside Aoyama, so she joined the match with determination. As soon as she received the ball, Goto began to show off her skills. One of the comedy trio members was instantly outplayed. After that, the other two members were also taken down. Zaizen decided he would be the one to stop Goto. But suddenly, she tripped and fell face first onto the ground. Everyone immediately blamed Zaizen for it. Zaizen was confused, saying, "I didn't touch her, I didn't do anything. No one even came near her." In reality, Goto had only pretended to fall. Meanwhile, Aoyama had already put on his shoes. This time, Goto faced him directly. Goto made a bold move to challenge Aoyama. Aoyama tried to slide in and steal the ball. Goto fell face first again, but this time, it wasn't a foul. Zaizen attempted a finishing shot, but he also slipped and fell. Aoyama told Goto that he didn't like such dirty tricks. Yet he also complimented her, saying her dribbling was impressive. Coach Mocha watched the two of them and imagined a scene straight out of her favorite movie. Goto was overjoyed, thinking their legs might have just touched for a moment. Then came the next warm-up session. The comedy trio stretched while their 6 eyes kept scanning around for girls. It was truly an entertaining way to warm up. Next came the swimming practice. The other team members swam properly with perfect technique. In contrast, the comedy trio swam like dogs. After a while, everyone started to feel something strange. A giant wall suddenly appeared in front of them. It turned out to be a painting. And in fact, they were all still indoors. The entire place was actually a dome specially designed for this training camp. Everyone had to admit, Zaizen's family company was seriously impressive. Karen had also prepared something special for her brother. It was a series of artificial waves. But strangely, they only appeared around Zaizen. She said she wanted to help strengthen his legs. However, Goto told Karen that her brother couldn't even shoot properly. Meanwhile, Zaizen was struggling, nearly drowning in the waves. After that, the whole team continued training. They practiced dribbling and shooting. Everyone was completely exhausted and starving. Karen had also prepared food for everyone. The team thought that food from Zaizen's company must be delicious. But no, it turned out to be just a single bean. She explained that it was a bean packed with all the nutrients known to mankind. It was even called the jewel in the crown. So everyone ate it anyway. It was indeed nutritious, but not at all filling. Suddenly, a pleasant aroma filled the air. The judo coach, who was still keeping an eye on Umeya, got knocked out by Coach Mocha after she mistook him for a thief. The source of the smell was none other than Aoyama, who was cooking. Soon after, everyone enjoyed a meal prepared by him. Right after eating, it was time for the fun program to begin. The Test of Courage event officially started. Zaizen ended up paired with Aoyama's group. The comedy trio stuck together as usual, cracking jokes all the way. Odagiri showed no fear at all. Goto, however, was desperately trying to protect Aoyama from getting dirty because of the scary ghosts. Odagiri stayed completely calm the entire time. The comedy trio screamed as if they were dying and coming back to life. Meanwhile, The girls dressed as ghost nurses were determined to hug Aoyama at all costs. But since they couldn't hug Aoyama, they accidentally hugged Zaizan instead. The poor guy immediately fainted. Aoyama only cared about keeping himself clean. Goto only cared about Aoyama. Odagiri wasn't scared at all, while Zaizan remained unconscious from fright. After a while, Zaizan finally woke up, but he was still so scared that he nearly wet his pants. Just when he thought it was over, he got scared again. Despite everything, the training camp continued joyfully afterward. Through this trip, the team members became much closer to one another. Umeya silently watched the person he loved being happy with someone else. His coach continued observing him closely. Truly, what a unique pair of weirdos they were. Returning to their daily life, the next practice session had just ended. Suddenly, Kurata showed up looking for Aoyama. Zaizan had no idea who she was. Indeed, Aoyama had never shared anything about his personal life. The team didn't even know where he lived. They were certain Aoyama was hiding many secrets. So the four of them decided to investigate and uncover the truth. Thus, their operation, Follow Aoyama, officially began. Zaizan carried the chubby guy on his bike. Struggling to pedal, he complained that this was totally unfair. The chubby guy imagined that Aoyama must be living in a luxurious and spotless apartment. But while the group got distracted joking around, they suddenly lost sight of Aoyama. Damn it, he was gone already. It turned out Aoyama had walked his bike through the crowd, moving with his usual speed and precision. The group decided to keep following him closely so they wouldn't lose him again. The chubby guy even took the chance to buy some snacks to eat. Zaizan was like, "Seriously? Are you trying to increase your body weight or something?" Man Aoyama also realized that he was being followed, so he immediately took off and ran away quickly. He also used his eyes to tell everyone not to follow him. The whole group wondered why he was hiding it like that. It might be because he didn't want anyone to enter his private space. Zaizan decided not to give up, but the whole group looked dumb for not taking the stairs. Because they jumped too high, their legs couldn't move anymore. Then the chase continued. Everyone was determined to catch up, but they ended up losing sight of him again. The chubby boy got hungry again and wanted to stop by a restaurant. But Zaizan insisted on paying for it. As soon as they entered, they accidentally saw Aoyama passing by. The whole group immediately started chasing again. After following him for a while, they reached a house. Everyone was surprised because it looked different from what they had imagined. Without saying much, Zaizan went straight into the house. Then he continued walking directly into the kitchen. There, they ran into Ibuki Seigo. Zaizan knew that Ibuki had signed a contract with a famous youth soccer team in Spain. But this place turned out to be his house. It was known that the two had played against each other, and Ibuki was the winner. Therefore, Aoyama was forced to cook for Ibuki. After that, everyone joined the meal together. Zaizan couldn't believe that Aoyama had actually lost. Because of their deal, Aoyama had to cook for Ibuki every day. Thanks to that, his cooking skills improved noticeably. After eating, they all rested. Zaizan was still curious about where Aoyama's real home was. The next day, Zaizan came to find him for training. Today, Aoyama suddenly skipped practice. Zaizan was determined to find out the reason behind it. Goto also wanted to go along with him. After walking for a while, they passed by Ibuki's house. Then they arrived at Oshigami High School. Aoyama came there, so Takechi thought he was joining the team. But in reality, that wasn't the case. When Zaizan arrived, he misunderstood everything. He thought Kurata was the one who lured Aoyama there. Ibuki was also present at the scene. Takechi announced that Ibuki would be joining the Oshigami High School team from now on. Zaizan mistakenly thought Aoyama joined Oshigami because of Ibuki. Then Ibuki started arguing with Kurata. The situation became even more chaotic. Suddenly, Aoyama kicked the ball straight at Ibuki. He still wanted to have a one-on-one match with him. Both of them got ready for a solo match. Kurata knew they had always been like this. The two of them had known each other since their time on the national team. Takechi didn't forget to brag that he was also part of that team. He still believed that if they could get Aoyama, their team would definitely win the Winter Cup. The two would face each other in 3 rounds. Then the first round began. Ibuki saw Aoyama as a cute little prey, so he easily took the ball away from Aoyama. Ibuki won the first round. He joked that it looked like he would get dinner again tonight. Then came the second round. While holding the ball, Ibuki wondered what he should eat for dinner tonight. He managed to take the ball again and chose pork cutlet rice as his meal. But Aoyama successfully intercepted him. The match for today ended there. Kurata realized that both of them weren't giving their all in today's match. Takechi compared their stats and saw that Aoyama lost to Ibuki in every category. So he thought having both of them on the team would be perfect. On the other hand, Zaizan had nothing except his leadership power. That evening, Aoyama went to Ibuki's house. After a while, the meal was finally ready. Ibuki enjoyed it deliciously and happily. Suddenly, Takechi contacted Ibuki, but he immediately hung up because he was waiting for Kurata. The reason they were mad at each other was that Kurata once cooked a meal, but Ibuki added mayonnaise sauce to it, and she found out about it. Kurata was hurt when Ibuki criticized her cooking. Since then, she had been mad at him until now. Ibuki hoped Aoyama could help him make it up to Kurata. Aoyama agreed, but the first step was to ask her out. Kurata arrived but didn't understand why she was there. Ibuki showed up wearing a cat costume. That was Aoyama's idea, because cats could heal wounds and soothe anger. But at that moment, Ibuki felt the situation had only gotten worse. Then they went to a bookstore. Kurata tried to find a book about nutritious meals for athletes. Ibuki also took the chance to apologize for what happened that day. He even brought a small gift to make up for it. Kurata was happy because she didn't expect Ibuki to give her a gift. The idea for the gift also came from Aoyama, but inside was actually a cookbook. Kurata thought that meant he was saying her cooking was bad, so her anger grew even more instead of fading. Then Aoyama and Ibuki decided to move toward the final step. Suddenly, Ibuki wanted the two of them to have a solo soccer match. Aoyama thought this would help them get closer to each other. Kurata also agreed to play, wanting to let out all her frustration. Unexpectedly, she easily got past Ibuki. The two of them played fiercely against each other. Kurata truly admitted that she had fallen in love with Ibuki, so she genuinely wanted to do everything to help the one she loved. But why couldn't he understand her feelings? Aoyama appeared and finished the play with a final shot. It seemed both of them felt better afterward. However, things soon went back to how they were. Kurata realized that Ibuki really hadn't changed at all. He even won again against Aoyama. Kurata had already prepared food, knowing her loved one would be hungry. Ibuki immediately took it and began eating. He said it tasted incredibly delicious. Kurata's attitude instantly changed by 180 degrees. Ibuki joked that maybe the food was just good because he was starving. Kurata was like, forget it already. Zaizan still had no idea what was going on with Aoyama, even after following him for days. The next day's practice resumed. Aoyama acted just like usual. Sakai scored a goal and received full support from the girls. The comedy trio didn't understand why he had suddenly become so popular. Maybe it was because of his new hairstyle. The four eyes guy and the chubby one didn't even recognize him after the change. They told him not to copy Aoyama, but he claimed that he had always looked like this, and now his fanbase had grown significantly. The other members decided to stop this cool guy act of his. As expected, changing his hair also changed his luck. He even mocked his best friends, calling them cleaning rags. The guys were extremely pissed off. Sakai had become completely full of himself with his new hairstyle and current popularity. The next day, he even received sweets from girls. The four eyes guy and the chubby one were furious. They wondered if this was still the same crazy friend from their group. Girls kept giving him food non-stop. The two best friends couldn't believe what they were seeing, but they were determined not to let their friend change so quickly. They had to bring him back to the old Sakai they used to know. The four eyes guy used his ultimate special technique. He wanted Sakai to join in like the old days, but Sakai no longer reacted the same way. He even called the four eyes guy an idiot. The chubby one and the four eyes guy just wanted their old comedy Sakai back. Suddenly, three girls came up to Sakai and confessed their love. All three wanted to go out with him. The chubby one and the four eyes guy felt devastated, thinking their best friend had crossed over to another world already. Unexpectedly, Sakai rejected all three girls outright. His two friends thought he had returned to his senses. But no, he claimed he belonged to everyone, not just one girl. His two best friends completely gave up on him. They said he had truly drifted away to a faraway place. There was no hope left anymore, they said in despair. The next day, during practice, Sakai was still full of energy. Zaizan thought that if this boosted their team's strength, he would welcome it. He even told Sakai to keep playing his way, no matter what others said. He encouraged him to aim for the national tournament together. But Sakai said he didn't care about the national tournament. He only wanted to score goals. So he said, then switch positions with me, buddy. The coach agreed to the idea right away. Zaizan thought he was finally going to be blessed by the goal-scoring gods. He faced a one-on-one situation, but Zaizan still couldn't shoot the ball. Sakai appeared and scored successfully instead. Ms. Mocha admitted that Sakai's desire to stand out, and the swarm of girls around him, had turned him into a true goal-hunting predator. His two best friends also agreed that he looked just like a real striker now. Indeed, letting Zaizan play as a defender wasn't a bad idea after all. Zaizan thought that he now needed Aoyama. He decided that he would score from Aoyama's pass. but Sakai once again stole the goal right in front of him. Even Aoyama admitted that Sakai was amazing. Zaizan began to imagine himself losing his position and being benched, so he decided not to leave Sakai's side for even a second. When the chance came, he would steal the ball right away. Aoyama made another pass. Both of them fought fiercely for control of the ball. Each was determined to be the one to score. The ball landed neatly in the net. Of course, Zaizan was the one who lost again. In the next match, Sakai went all out on the field. The reporters were shocked by what they saw. The final score was 5-2 for the game. Zaizan was forced to sit on the bench. His father found out that his son had been benched. He was disappointed that the eldest son of the Zaizan family ended up like this. He warned that if Zaizan didn't become the top player in the next match, he would have to quit soccer. Unexpectedly, the next day, Zaizan went to ask Goto to teach him how to play soccer. The team captain and Ms. Mocha were also there with him. Aoyama was the key player, though he seemed to be more focused on cleaning as usual. Zaizan remembered how Goto had gone all out during the training camp, so he decided to do whatever it took to improve himself. Goto didn't like Zaizan's father's controlling attitude, but as the team manager, she decided to give him her full support, and thus began Zaizan's intense and exhausting training journey. First, he started practicing his shooting accuracy. No matter how hard he kicked, the ball always went off target, even with the goal right in front of him. Out of 10 shots, only 2 went in. With that rate, there was no way he could score in a real match. Zaizan thought it was best to end practice for the day. He still clearly remembered his father's words, "If you don't train with focus, you'll never score a single goal." But Goto didn't agree to stop there. She said, "Whether you practice or not, just tell me directly. Got it?" Meanwhile, at home, the butler revealed that Zaizan had been secretly training. Zaizan kept practicing his shots, but they still kept missing. His father arrived and saw everything with his own eyes. Even after all that training, there was no noticeable improvement. However, there's no shortcut to success. His father brought a huge sum of money, hoping to help his son make a comeback. Goto was furious with both father and son. What idiots, she thought. Do they think money and power can fix everything? She immediately put both of them through harsh training. It seemed her method had failed, though, so Zaizan continued to train on his own. The results were still the same, not a single improvement. Out of dozens of shots, he barely managed to score one, but he kept going, again and again. After a while, he finally scored another goal. Father and son celebrated together in joy, but Goto reminded them, "You still have 10 minutes left before practice ends." The next day, Sakai continued to shine with his lucky new hairstyle. Suddenly, the young man decided to tie up his hair to try it out. Zaizan kept following him, trying to steal Sakai's opportunity. Because he tied up his hair, the ancestor of goal scoring no longer favored him. However, this time, Umeya was the one who scored the goal. The young man still lied, saying he could still hear the voice of the ancestor. But indeed, everything had begun to change. Sakai had become useless again. Just like before, as expected, he could no longer hear anything. The comedy group arrived. They told him, "If you fail, just come back to us. Come back, and we'll reunite like old times." When Sakai returned home, he kept hearing voices telling him to come back to the comedy group. Frustrated, the young man grabbed his head and pulled his hair to return to his old hairstyle. The next day, he showed up again as usual. He thought that if he accepted being Aoyama, he would still be super cool. Indeed, the female fans were still crazy about Sakai. Suddenly, the guy with glasses pulled down his pants. He was sure that this method would help Sakai return to normal. But Sakai decided to push the image of Aoyama even further. He went to tell Goto about what happened. Meanwhile, the comedy group was determined to drag him back no matter what. Sakai sincerely hoped that Goto could teach him how to become Aoyama again. However, his body was beginning to blend in with the comedy group. Goto commented that he was tarnishing Aoyama's name. The young man started to panic because he couldn't hear any voices anymore. Zaizan succeeded in scoring a brilliant goal. The goal-scoring ancestor had now completely sided with Aoyama. At this point, Sakai could only hear the voices of the comedy group. So, he had no choice but to accept and blend back in. The female fans ran away as soon as they saw him like that. As a result, Zaizan was forced to return to the striker position. The next day, the scouting men still came. The team members realized that indeed, Aoyama was more suited for the national team. They didn't know whether he would decide to stay or leave. They knew clearly that Aoyama came only because of the restroom, but they didn't know if being invited by a professional team would change the outcome. In the afternoon, Zaizan wanted to have a clear conversation. He asked for Aoyama's decision. Zaizan knew that the whole team here relied entirely on him. 3 young fans came to ask for Aoyama's autograph. He put on gloves and signed for each of them. Zaizan acknowledged that indeed, he was the hope of Fujimi High. Then he left. He said a few words before leaving. He hoped that Aoyama would play wherever he felt he could shine the most. But he also told him to do his best in tomorrow's match. Zaizan visited his mother's grave. He recalled memories from his childhood. As a child, he had promised to score goals as a gift for his mother. Today, Zaizan was ready for the upcoming match. He promised his mother that he would win. The whole team arrived and prepared to fight. Goto thought that after this match, Aoyama would leave the team. Zaizan felt like he did when his mother was still alive. Then they had a pre-match meeting. The coach presented strategies and analyzed the opponents. One team member had seen him visit his mother's grave with his family that morning. He guessed that today might be the anniversary of Zaizan's mother's death. Today's opponent was Kureishi High. They had two very solid and large central defenders. Mocha wanted Zaizan to shine as much as possible, but he was currently unable to focus. Aoyama also noticed this. Then the match continued. Fujimi was the attacking team first. The whole team knew that today was the anniversary of Zaizan's mother's death. The team was determined to fully support Zaizan. They resolved to help him and win together with him. Zaizan returned. Everyone together made a strong determination once more. The match resumed. Zaizan attempted a header, but the two central defenders of the opposing team prevented it. The game continued. Aoyama got the ball. The opponents defended very tightly. Zaizan could not receive the ball. The opponents made a long pass. Then a shot followed immediately. And it went in. Kureishi High scored the first goal of the match. The first half ended with this score. Zaizan went to buy some water. He saw a boy fall and his mother worrying. This reminded him of the past. Even though his mother was visually impaired, she still tried to do things for him. Even though she couldn't take him to school, he felt very happy having her by his side. But when he learned that his mother was no longer alive, he felt sad. He knew that after today's match, Aoyama would leave, so he resolved to win and take the victory as a farewell gift for his mother and Aoyama. Suddenly, the vending machine recognized him as the winner, and many drinks poured out. The second half continued. Zaizan still received passes, but the two central defenders of the opponents defended very tightly. Zaizan was forced to pass the ball. Then the opponents got a corner kick. The opponents scored again from this situation. Currently, Fujimi High was trailing by 2 goals. Aoyama started to accelerate. Everyone didn't expect him to show his strength so early. The opponents immediately marked him with many players. If 4 couldn't stop him, then 5 tried. Zaizan thought Aoyama was being too reckless. Aoyama thought it would be meaningless if Zaizan didn't overcome the current situation. He remembered the past. In that match, his mother didn't come either. The ball came, but Zaizan made a mistake because he was worried. The opponents immediately counterattacked. The opponents knew that Fujimi's weapon was Aoyama's counterattack in the last 5 minutes. So if the game continued like this, they could still win. Another cross was made. Zaizan defended but couldn't stop it. The ball slowly flew toward the goal, but Aoyama suddenly appeared to save it right on the goal line. The situation was controlled. His teammates were very happy because Aoyama saved the goal. But in return, Aoyama got dirty. Zaizan realized that all the mistakes were his fault. Aoyama thought that if they didn't want to win, he hoped Zaizan would make a substitution. These words also touched his pride. He hit his head against the goalpost to regain his composure. His teammates thought, "Is this guy stupid? What is he doing?" The match continued. The opponents knew that Aoyama was dirty, so they slowed down. They thought victory was already in their hands. Zaizan affirmed that Fujimi High didn't rely on Aoyama alone. Then Zaizan's determination began to reach its peak. He successfully scored a header. The opponents didn't expect such strength to come from him. But the opponents lost control of the ball again. The opponents continued their counterattack and tried to finish the match. But the ball was unexpectedly blocked again. Zaizan retreated to defend like a true defender. He used his face to block the shot. Aoyama thought Zaizan's football was too dirty. But the only thing that mattered now was victory. The match continued. The Fujimi members began to feel exhausted. Only 15 minutes remained in the match. Zaizan had reached his limit. Another corner kick occurred. Zaizan used every bit of strength left to defend. Fujimi immediately counterattacked. The team members all tried their hardest to push the ball forward. Just as it seemed the ball would go out, Aoyama suddenly appeared. He moved because only 5 minutes remained. Aoyama unleashed his full strength. He passed the ball to one side. Zaizan moved forward to receive the ball. Everyone was counting on Zaizan. He imagined his mother watching him play. Suddenly, his strength seemed to be buffed by 200%. Of course, Zaizan scored a goal with a header. Then Fujimi turned the match around with a total score of 3-2. The next 2 goals belonged to Aoyama. The team members didn't understand who Zaizan referred to as his mother. They also wondered who the person in the photo was. The whole group started to suspect they had been deceived. Zizan explained that it was only an ancestral grave. The whole group realized they had wasted energy worrying over such a trivial matter. Indeed, they hadn't even seen Flip Face 8 inches coming out yet. Zizan blamed his mother for having gone away. It turned out that going away meant she went to do volunteer work. Next parts. Love you all forever.